Welcome to the Easier Way to Sell presentation of Close the Deal Without Selling. Here's your host and developer of the Easier Way to Sell, Ike Krieger.
Hey, this is Ike Krieger. Welcome back. Welcome to this episode of Close the Deal Without Selling, where we're going to finish up your introduction to the YES formula. But first, I want to introduce you to a concept that I think will save you a lot of time, frustration, and stress. I'm talking about your ability to recognize and avoid problem clients. You might ask yourself, how do you identify a problem client? Well, my answer is in the first 30 seconds after meeting a prospect, whether or not they will end up being a problem for you. Trust your intuition. You can probably look back on your sales career and recall immediately those clients that you took on that you now regret. These problem clients were not profitable clients. The only thing they produced for you and your business was an increase in frustration and stress. You have enough problems with your non-problem clients to take on a prospect that you know will become a problem client is insanity. Avoid problem clients. Here are a few of the diagnostic open-ended questions you'll use in your sales interview. Memorize them. Use them. Come up with your own. And remember, think like a doctor. What do you want? What's stopping you from getting it? What were you hoping I might be able to do for you? What would happen if you do nothing? What would happen if you keep doing what you're doing? What seems to be the real problem here? How serious is the situation? What's one thing you really don't like about the way things are going? What's one thing you would change immediately? How long have you been considering doing something about this? What's all this costing you? What are you doing to resolve this? What would you like me to do next? What's the biggest challenge you're facing right now? What steps are you following to accomplish X? How are they working? Okay, that's enough of a sample of the types of diagnostic open-ended questions I am urging you to use in your sales interviews. Memorize these and use them. That's the second time I've said it, so obviously I believe it's important. We finished up the last episode talking about the YES formula, and the YES formula is made up of 5 ingredients: R&R, which stands for rapport and relationship, CAN or CAN, which stands for curious, authentic, and neutral, MBA, that stands for mutually beneficial agreements, OEQ, that's open-ended questions, and finally, there's QUIC, which is your process by which you actually undertake your sales call. And QUIC stands for qualify, uncover the problem, investment, capability, and knowledge. And I'll get into all of those in a little while, but we left off with R&R, and the final thought about that was you can never have too much rapport. Remember, R&R stands for rapport and relationship. And rapport is something that exists when the similarities between people outweigh the differences. As an aside, motivational coach, trainer, author Tony Robbins shares what I believe to be the greatest definition of rapport that I've heard, and that is, when people are like each other, they tend to like each other. Pretty simple, huh? Let's get back to the episode. The second ingredient of the YES formula is CAN, C-A-N, and the C stands for curious. Curiosity helps create an environment in which you are viewed as a committed provider of a solution rather than as someone who needs to make the sale. When curiosity is the filter through which you communicate, it's more likely that you'll receive high-quality information from someone who is less guarded in their response. So C stands for curious. The A stands for authentic. Authenticity is what's missing from most business communications. The YES formula will help you remain authentic in your communications, and authenticity promotes a more productive dialogue. The N stands for neutral. Neutrality in your communications produces powerful results. When you're neutral, you're objective. When you're objective, you can remain curious. You aren't emotionally attached to your outcome. You remain committed to your outcome, but not tied to it. Remain committed instead of needy. Remember, communication success comes in cans. Isn't that cute? In your communications, are you being curious? Are you being authentic? Are you being neutral? When you're conducting your sales interview, curiosity plays an important role. CAN will help you remember to focus on their problem rather than yours. Curiosity and authenticity have a tendency to slip out of the equation whenever you're focused on solving your problem. When you're tied to your outcome and committed to solving your own problem, it's difficult to remain a neutral problem solver. If you're tied to your outcome, it's really difficult to focus on the problems of the person you're dealing with. Remember, give up the need to sell. Not the commitment to sell, but the need to sell. This mindset helps you help your prospect get what he or she wants and not necessarily what you want to get them. This mindset helps you stay more in the consultative, problem-solving mode. The goal is to think like a doctor and conduct a professional examination in the form of your system-based sales interview. Doctors follow this model every day. They begin in a diagnostic mode, not prescribing before they diagnose, and they're curious, they're authentic, and they're neutral. MBA stands for Mutually Beneficial Agreements. The problem with most communications, and certainly business communications, is that there are no rules to follow. A business may have specific rules and guidelines for their communications, and the prospect, client, or customer has their own set of rules, but there are no rules common to both. Now, you've heard me mention before that the best way to think of mutually beneficial agreements is to think of the game Monopoly, because there are very few people who haven't played Monopoly, but if you and I set out the game in front of us, we couldn't start to play because we hadn't established the rules that we used when we were kids. You used different rules than I did. There are rules inside of the box, but we made up our own rules when we were kids. I don't know how much money you put in free parking or how you get out of jail. Now, in under a minute, we could establish rules that are mutually agreeable to both parties, and we could begin to play. Well, it's the same in communication. MBAs offer you the opportunity to establish rules for your communication that make that communication more effective. Now, are there rules for selling? The reason you and most other people don't like to deal with salespeople is because you never know what to expect. After all, there are no set rules in selling. Your prospects have rules that they follow, which is, they're usually designed to protect them from the sales monster. You have your rules, usually designed to break through the rules of the prospect. Now, the YES formula offers a set of simple rules and guidelines for both your buyer/prospect and you that just happen to boost sales productivity, and these guidelines make the process of selling work simply and effectively. And the YES formula helps you establish this simple set of agreeable guidelines. And these guidelines help you determine quickly whether or not a prospect is qualified for your service or your product. The YES formula creates an opportunity for authentic communication based on mutually agreed upon guidelines. This process produces a rich environment for what we call selling. The effect of an authentic communication between you and your prospect cannot be overrated. Prospects have issues to be resolved, projects to complete, or problems to be solved. And when you show up as a solution to the problem, rather than the cause of a new one, you'll be more readily accepted as a positive resource. You want your prospect to arrive at the conclusion on their own that your resources or solutions are or are not what they need. Here's an important YES formula rule. Ask questions that give the prospect the opportunity to either qualify or disqualify themselves as a candidate for your product or service. And remember, you want to uncover a no that was going to happen anyway. Now, the MBAs also give you a lead in functioning as a problem-solving diagnostician rather than an information machine. The YES formula reminds you to ask a particular style of question. Open-ended questions. Open-ended questions are the most valuable information-gathering device available, and OEQ is the next ingredient in the YES formula, open-ended questions. Let's face it, we weren't trained to ask open-ended questions. Open-ended questions begin with who, what, when, where, how, and sometimes why. But we're used to asking and answering closed-end questions. And closed-end questions are questions that can be answered with a yes or no, but don't necessarily stimulate the conversation. Open-ended questions open up a conversation. Closed-ended questions close a conversation. Now, closed-ended questions certainly have their place in this system. However, learning and using the right open-ended questions will make your sales efforts easier and less stressful. Quick is the fifth and final ingredient in the YES formula. Now, Quick is a 5-step process that will help you discover if a prospect has the problem you solve and will help you determine how willing they are to invest in that solution. Even more valuable is your ability to disqualify someone as a recipient of your problem-solving abilities. It allows you to be selective in choosing your clients. And being selective about who you do business with should not be looked at as a product of success, but one of the main causes. Quick will help you uncover a no that was going to happen anyway. This discovery alone will help you shorten your selling cycle. Each letter of Quick stands for a separate step. The first one is Q, qualify. And actually, it should be disqualify, but there was no such word as DWIC. So, Q stands for qualify, which is your time to find out if they're willing to follow the mutually beneficial agreements set out in the Quick system. Second is U, uncover the problem. Use open-ended questions to discover the problem. Next comes I for investment. Discover if they have the time and/or the money to solve the problem. C is capability, their capability, because you have to find out if the person has the authority to spend the money to solve the problem. And finally, K, that stands for knowledge. Find out if they're clear on why they want the solution. When you say it, it's selling. When they say it, it's true. When you use the ingredients contained in the YES formula, you'll be more effective at identifying new prospects and even existing clients that are ready, willing, and able to do business and want to do business with you. Plus, you'll move from stress to success in selling. Let's do a quick review of the YES formula. We have R&R, which is your ability to establish rapport and relationship. You have CAN, C-A-N, which stands for curious, authentic, and neutral, reminding you how you should be during your sales communications. MBA, which stands for mutually beneficial agreements. OEQ. You've heard me emphasize over and over again the importance of well-formed, open-ended questions, and nothing has changed since then. And then there's QUIC, which stands for qualify, uncover the problem, investment, capability, and knowledge. You're just a few steps away from being able to take this system with you out on your sales calls. You do have to practice. There is going to be some work involved, and the fun thing is if you're using this for your personal communication skills, you're going to start seeing a change in some of your relationships because of the way you're communicating, asking questions, and listening. It really is a communications model that happens to work wonderfully in selling. If you're serious about learning or teaching the easier way to sell, I invite you to go to sellandmarketbetter.com and get your copy of the Close the Deal Without Selling podcast accompanying action guide. I know you'll find it helpful. In our next podcast, we're going to be going over a sales scenario in which you basically have a before and after. The before is where the system isn't used, and the after is where it is, and successfully, I might add. FYI, you can join us on LinkedIn on the Close the Deal Without Selling page there, or on the Close the Deal Without Selling page on Facebook. On Twitter, our handle is YES Formula. Please like us and follow us on all three platforms. We're getting listeners from all over the world. All over the world. And I'd be really interested in knowing how you found out about us. So please send us an email at closethedealwithoutselling@gmail.com and let's get acquainted. Well, there's another episode that we can mark complete. So much information, I know. It's going to be so worth it. So keep on listening. This is Ike Krieger. See you next time.